What's poppin'? Real ones. Logan Murdock here. Roger Bell there. Howard Beck in the motherfucking cut. This is motherfucking Mondays. This is Grumpy Mondays. Me and Roger are manufacturing beef way too early this morning. We're going to talk about the Timberwolves. We're going to talk about the Nuggets. We're going to talk some Knicks. We're going to preview the games for Monday night. But first, so it's crazy how things can change in a week. Last week we were talking. I was talking that big talk about Anthony Edwards and could he be the best player in the league? Are the Minnesota Timberwolves? Huh?
He had a 44 ball last night. He looked pretty damn good. I don't think he personally has done anything.
You're fucking up my setup here. Relax. I will get to you in a second.
If the shit's trash, I'm going to get in them interjecting, motherfucker. I'm here.
I'm just saying Monday. What I said. Okay, so anyways, so boom.
He didn't do shit to live that down.
I was talking all this stuff about the Minnesota Timberwolves and their championship aspirations. Now they're down 2-2. And what I was going to get to, which Roger rudely interrupted, Anthony Edwards seems to be balling.
Hey, Howard, hold up, though. Hold up real quick. There's a little, like we're on a riverside. The fans can't see this, but there's like an orange box. You see the orange box like that's above, like that's right between you and Kerm on the screen there? It says NBA show or The Ringer. You see that? It's like our show art. Whose fucking name is first on that?
Oh, God.
Jesus Christ. What is going on?
He's in a bag.
What is going on?
But you won't get at me on a Monday morning. You want to manufacture some beef. Howard, let the people know. If you need to check your Twitters or your fucking Ringer feeds. So when I want to open my mouth, guess what I'm about to do, Howard?
Oh, my God.
Wow.
Kerm.
What did I do?
What did Roger was going nuclear this morning.
I didn't know Roger was going nuclear this morning. I didn't know. He said,
carry on as a let me
so
steal a perk friend of the show.
Beef?
Carry on.
He said you want to manufacture beef. All right, man. We're not even 2 minutes in. Okay, I promise we're going to get to the topics. Anyway, so Anthony Edwards is balling. I think that's the biggest takeaway from this series so far, at least on the Timberwolves side. But from ever since, and it's weird that we're getting to this place, Roger, because usually when a team is up 2-0 going back home, at least we're going to go back up 3-1. But what we've seen from this Timberwolves team is lack of secondary scoring, right? Like we're seeing the fruits of inconsistency from one Karl Anthony Towns. How precarious is the situation for the Timberwolves at this point, if you had to rate it from about 1 to 10?
A 9.5. You've squandered a 2-0 lead, and as incredible as it is to like get up 2-0 on the defending champs home floor in the way that you did. It's equally as incredible as for you to go home with that 2-0 lead with your home crowd and all of its juice and give it back to them in the way that you did. And so I would just say you're in a best of 3 now with the defending champs who weren't playing great basketball. And they seem to have, in game 2, been embarrassed enough to wake up in a sense. And so now it's 2 out of 3 with them having home court advantage. It's very precarious.
I don't want to. I know I've been guilty, Howard, of just being going off the rails and just making very big declarations. As I just did. It just got tagged for it. I didn't even know. Wow, I'm still just eviscerated from the nuclear.
Look, you get. I would just say this. Sorry, you get 45, 46. You start getting like back spasms and shit. Like. It'll just get you grumpy. like you know what I mean, man? So like, this is my bad, man. My back hurts. My fucking back hurts, man. I'm sorry.
Howard, 1, can you relate to Roger's troubles right now? And 2, I'm going to just pose the question right back to you. How precarious is the situation for Minnesota?
I can relate because I can recall times in the last, I don't know how many years where I sneezed and like fucking pulled a rib muscle. So like, This is what you have to look forward to, Logan.
Jeez.
It's precarious. It's as precarious as Raj's back, apparently. I mean, listen, I think we're all prisoners of the moment. And the second the Timberwolves stole home court advantage in game 1 and then took game 2, it was, I mean, everything. And I was talking to people around the league who were like, yeah, the Nuggets are toast. And I started hearing rumblings of like, oh, I'm not going to get into it on the pod now because it's not fair. But like there were rumblings about why it was happening. And so suddenly everybody's starting to speculate about the Nuggets and where it's going to go from here, because now it's an assumption that they're just going to lose and all this. And here we are, the champions look like the champions again, and it's tied 2-2, and they won 2 on the road, and now we're just down to a best of 3, and they've got 2 at home. And now we're going to overreact and bury the Timberwolves. Like, this is what we do in playoff series, especially if there are wild swings, right? We're partially prisoners of the moment because we're responding to what the players just did. And we have nothing to go, like, none of us can actually see the future, all stupid predictions that we do in this business notwithstanding. The players go out there, and we react. So if we overreact, it's because there are some wild swings sometimes, and this is one of those series, and it becomes hard to get a real grasp of. Towns did everything yesterday to reinforce all of the old concerns about him, all the frailties about his game, and yet at other times he's been great, and he could just as quickly flip it around. The Nuggets were just banged up enough and out of sync enough that they looked vulnerable. Suddenly they don't. I have no idea what comes next. I really don't.
Yeah,
I know we're not supposed to say answer. I don't know in this business. I don't fucking know.
That's probably the best answer, because I'm trying to give declarations and give all these things. It's like, oh man, like this could happen. You know, we've seen. I mean, because on the surface, we've seen what Anthony Edwards can do. I want to pose this question to Raja, because I was talking to Rob Mahoney on the pod on Saturday evening. We were doing a lot. Was it Friday evening? A Ringer NBA show after dark, and obviously the subject of Anthony Edwards came up, and I'm just looking right now at the stat line. Just the disparity between Anthony Edwards and everyone else on the floor, like 44 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists, 16 to 25. Like, he's just been amazing. But I posed the question of, is there anything else? Is there another style that Anthony Edwards can bring to the floor that could be, because I'm thinking about this. I'm thinking about Kobe in the 05-06 series against you guys, Raja, where he was going into that series, the first round series, he was a scoring dynamo, one of the best scoring seasons of all time. But with you guys, at least for the first 3 or 4 games, he took on more of the game manager decoy role. Is that something that could be more conducive to winning at this stage for Anthony Edwards? And I'm literally just asking questions. I don't know. I think he's been playing fantastic. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I hear what you're saying, and I can appreciate it. And he had 5 assists last night. Like, there's a world in which I could say I watched that game, and with his ability to get wherever he wants to go on a floor, it could make sense for him to try to get that up to like 8 or 9 and spring people for some, at least theoretically, easier opportunities for themselves, you know? Mm-hmm. But the reality is he was doing that, and guys just weren't converting them all the time. It's not like he's in there and he's a non-willing passer. There were multiple times in the midst of like a heater for him where they were trying to hang on and stay kind of connected score-wise, where he'd give it up and someone else would take it upon themselves to like shoot a like Cat, or I think it was Jaden McDaniels one, like they'd just shoot a wild shot, and I'd be actually begging them in the, get that shit back to him. There shouldn't be a possession right now where he doesn't have it. If he chooses to pass it to one of you jokers, cool. But like, while he's hot like that, let him rock. So I feel what you're saying, but I really don't think so, Logan, because I don't know who else on that team, other than Cat can really create in their own way. So now you're asking him to really be a facilitator and a creator. And I don't think that the other the others have enough upside offensively for him to exist as that on that team. He's going to have to be a primary scorer.
Yeah. And when you, what dictates that? What, based on the team personnel that you're seeing right now, what dictates the reasoning for being a game manager versus now he has to just go full throttle? Is it just because other guys aren't making shots? What is the, when you see the team that is around him right now, what dictates that, oh, Anthony Edwards needs to get 45 a night every night?
Well, I don't know that it needs to be 45, but he's got to be a primary scorer because although there are guys out there that can get buckets, I'm not taking anything away from any of their abilities. They don't strike me as like primary guys. The only person, if Cat were consistent as a bucket, or if the nights when Cat is good as a bucket, like high end bucket, then Ant can afford to be a little bit more distributive with the ball, like try to get people some shots because you just don't need his point production in the same way. But the way the team is made, like they need him. And it's not always as easy as it sounds to tell a guy who sees the game through primary scorer lens to like change that and be distributor. I mean, you've seen Kobe historically in playoffs when it's out there, right? Where like they're telling him to pass more and it is just, it doesn't work like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's hard to wear both of those hats.
For sure. It's going to be interesting to see. I really don't have much more about this series because like Howard said, I feel like we've been on a roller coaster this entire series. I think we're going to get even more on the roller coaster. I guess one more question that I have to ask though, Roger, how much of a fumbling of the bag is it to lose though at 2 games at home in that way, right? Like, geez, it's crazy.
I'm telling you, it's equally as incredible. You rarely see someone at this level of the playoffs at this point with teams like that, someone walking to a defending champions building and take 2. That was like, oh shit.
Yeah.
But it is just the antithesis of that to see that team go home and just get beat like they did at their crib 2 times in a row. It's pretty incredible. And I know we don't want to spend a whole lot of time on that, but there were a few things that I think I'm interested to hear you guys' perspective on it. It tells me what I need to know when I see Cat and even Ant a little bit and other cats on Minnesota moaning and crying and bitching at the officials in the way that I saw Denver doing it in game 2.
Yeah.
Like that tells me a lot. When now, it ain't no fun when the rabbit got the gun, right? Like now y'all are the ones that are going to be crying and bitching and it's a distraction. Like we got to get back to hooping.
Yeah.
Like I don't care if he didn't call it. Yes, you think you got fouled. We all do. Everyone who's ever had a ball in their hands and missed a layup thinks they got fouled.
Yeah.
But we can't. We have to be hooping. And they seem like they've been distracted.
I don't know. It feels like, I know Denver went through it and, went at the refs and especially on the onset of the series. But I think they get a lot more rope just because that's what the defending champion tag gets you, is a lot more rope to do things, right? Because you do get more of the benefit of the doubt. When I see Minnesota doing it, it speaks to their youth. And I know there's going to be a lot of people in Minnesota like, that's unfair, but those are the breaks. That's what it is. Like, you guys haven't done anything yet. So when we come hard on you in terms of the refereeing, that's what I see. I just see immaturity, and when I see that happen, I see all the things that was talked about in a diss towards Minnesota. And it's something that they have to learn through and grow through, right? And we'll see what they do in this game 5, but Howard, I really just don't know what's going to happen on this game 5. Literally anything can happen. We're going into game 5 and neither playoff team has won a home game. I don't even know if that's has that ever happened? I don't know.
I'm trying to remember. I don't, off the top of my head, I can't, but I know this has happened. I'm positive at least through the first 4 games we've had this happen where the road team won 1 through 4. Is there a series where the home team never won? I'm going to guess it's happened. But I don't have that off the top of my head. Things we could be Googling if we stall long enough. Or maybe Kerm can look up for us while we're moving on. But it is weird. It is weird. The thing that's not shocking about it is, I've said all along, Raja, tell me if you disagree, but I've said all along, as much respect as I have for the Nuggets, their margin for error is not as great as some other champions that we're used to seeing in this league. And it's because, as we've discussed, it's more of this ensemble cast, right? It's Jokic is, has current mythical title of greatest player in the world, 3-time MVP in 4 years. But Jamal Murray's really, really good. Never been an all-star caliber, but not an all-star. Aaron Gordon, KCP, Porter, like a bunch of good players. Bench isn't that great. Lost 2 key guys off the bench. Like the margin for error isn't that great. So if you pull one thread, if somebody's just off for the day, if Jamal Murray's banged up as he was coming into the series and KCP was, and Jokic is just a little out of sorts for whatever reason, then it makes you vulnerable. And the Timberwolves were just good enough to be able to take advantage of that. And the Nuggets are just good enough and have the muscle memory to then say, whatever, we lost 2 at home. We're good. We can do this. And then they do. And then like if you're the Timberwolves, now it's like, oh shit, we woke up the sleeping giant. The Nuggets who won the championship look like themselves again. And, you might be a little rattled.
A couple of things that I thought were interesting. I mean, one, the amount of times that you had Jokic bringing the ball up the court or Aaron Gordon bringing the ball up the court. If you remember in games 1 and 2, they lived with their guards bringing it up most of the time. That allowed Minnesota to start the pressure at the point of attack from the time it came in bounds. And I remember saying early in that series, man, they're picking him up really early. Like they're making him work. That alleviates it. You're not going to have Rudy Gobert. Even though they had Rudy up a little bit trying to do it, you don't want Rudy out there guarding Jokic, bringing the ball up the court. The second thing, which I think is interesting, and you always have to pick a poison when you're playing teams like that, is Jokic is going to do what Jokic does. Jamal Murray, even though he didn't go off, he's going to make big, timely shots in most situations. Like he's a really good playoff player, a really good player, period. But he tends to pick it up in the playoffs, especially in critical moments. You have to find a way to not let the Michael Porter Jr.'s kill you on any given night, to not let Aaron Gordon kill you on any given night. We have to figure out the balance there. If Jamal and Jokic do it, they're going to, you tip your hat. The same way that if you could take Jamal and Jokic out of the game, you tip your hat to the others if they beat you. But that's never going to happen. It's the best player on the planet. He's going to eat. Like he's going to do what he does. You got to mitigate the rest of that. I don't have the answer for it. You got to stay home a little bit, man. You can't be letting him kill you from that dunker spot. Now he's hitting some incredible shots. It wasn't all like being spoon-fed last night, Aaron Gordon, that is. But it helps when he's able to get off early from the dunker spot in offensive rebound, and then it opens up the jumper and the rest of the stuff he can do.
Yeah, I still don't have anything for it's just going to be so interesting to see, what happens in Game 5. Like I don't have I just don't have a grasp on this series in the way that, you should. It should be copy and it should be just black and white. Timberwolves should be up at least 3-1 right now going into this game, but it's just wild how things shift, especially in the modern NBA. Let's talk about, speaking of things shifting, Pacers-Knicks, which is, me and Raja talked on Friday before, I think the last time we talked, I think we were going into Game 3, and you said something really interesting, Raja, where the Knicks injuries, and specifically Jalen Brunson. First of all, you said that Brunson possibly should sit, which was interesting. And the anecdote to that I thought was going to happen was, the Knicks can just go ahead and win Game 3, and then then the Game 4. Not necessarily that it's irrelevant, but like you're taking a lot of pressure off of your team. What happened was, the
worst case scenario.
Worst case scenario happens over the course of this weekend, where you squander a lead down the stretch of a very, very gettable game, and
you run him into the ground chasing the win.
Run him into the ground chasing the win, which honestly, rightfully so, you should have did it, and it helps if you win that game. And then now you're back 2-2. Let's start with Howard, who's our resident Brooklynite, who was somewhat in the backyard of Madison Square Garden. Where do you see this series going? where are we? And I asked you how precarious the situation is for Minnesota. How precarious is the situation from a scale of 1 to 10 for the New York Knicks?
Ooh, scale of 1 to 10. It's like a 7 to 8. Like, it's pretty precarious. And, you know, I said this, we did a roundtable at theringer.com. Several of us, Logan, you were not involved in that roundtable, but we were surveyed last night by our esteemed editors on some impressions through the second round so far and where we think it goes from here. I think we all ended up saying the Pacers are going to pull this out. The Knicks, and again, we don't want to be prisoners of the moment. And when you get spanked that badly in a playoff game, you walk away as an observer thinking that team is cooked and we should know better because these things can flip around real quickly. The problem is for the Knicks, they're just running out of bodies. I don't know if Anunoby has any chance of coming back in this series. It doesn't seem like it's trending that direction. We don't really know how bad Brunson's foot is. He won't say anything. Tibbs won't say anything. You know, it's just not just the Knicks. Most NBA teams are really cagey about injuries these days. It's annoying.
Specifically
so we don't
during the playoffs.
Yeah, we have no idea what the state of his foot is. Like for all we know, they're gonna he's gonna 5 minutes after their season ends, he's going to go for surgery. Like that happens in this league sometimes, and we don't know until it happens. But it doesn't look good. Like Brunson doesn't look like himself. He's running on fumes. They've all played a bazillion minutes, and the rotation is tight. They're down Randall. They're down Bogdanovich. They're down Mitchell Robinson. They're down Anunoby. Like it's a lot. Like you just can't. Raja, I was thinking about this yesterday, knowing we were going to pod today. I sometimes think about the lies that y'all tell us. Players and coaches tell us, the media. Lies being things like we say, oh, you guys are really banged up. And it's like, you know, you get the Tibbsian kind of like, we've got more than enough to win. Or next man up. Like, bullshit. The next man up wasn't playing before for a reason. The guy in front of him who just went down was better than him. So that one's a lie. We're injured, but we can still gut this out or whatever. Or, you know, if you put on a jersey, you're healthy enough to play. Bullshit. Like guys play at 50% sometimes. Like you guys lie to us constantly. Can we just admit that when the Knicks tell us in the wake of the last several days, oh, you know, this and that, we can still do, they're lying, right?
Yeah,
why the fuck you lying?
Why you always lying? I think, yeah, Howard. Hey, man, listen. You know, sometimes you got to tell the company line, man, and get out there and put that good face on for the camera. But yes, I mean,
yo, is it when you guys do lie though? Is it like all agreed upon? Like, does your PR person like, hey, or your coach like, hey, we're gonna fucking lie?
No, yeah, we're not going to tell. Don't tell the media. Don't tell the media that the guy's getting his foot sawed off tomorrow.
Yeah, when you're a young pup, they might have those conversations. Once you're a grizzled vet, man, you once
you're a seasoned liar, it's fine.
You're good. You're like, all right, man, I got this. I'm gonna go out there and tell half truths. But I do think there's a little bit of nuance in the one where like, hey, next man up, right? And I think it pertains to this Knicks team. That's the conversation when you're losing like starters and you have 6 men of the year type of players coming in at like 6 and 7, like bona fide guys that can start on other teams. Sure, I might tell you that and it could be true. But once you get down to like missing 4 rotational pieces, it's not the same, right? So that'd be the only caveat to that.
And the thing is, like, listen, the Knicks have been incredible, like absolutely incredible. How many times could we have written them off? Not even just in the playoffs, but before that, with the number of guys they've lost and the way that they keep patching it up. And to their credit, the next man up thing has kind of worked and been more true than not for them. But there's a limit to that. You can't keep losing bodies, and your best player can't be as banged up as Jalen Brunson seems to be and still survive. The Pacers were already younger, faster, deeper. I don't know that they were better. I think the Knicks at full strength were the better team coming into all this and certainly had more playoff experience. But given the state of the Knicks right now versus what the Pacers have, I think that's a lot to ask. And the Pacers, listen, Halliburton, maybe a little deer in headlights game 1 at the Garden. Maybe it was his back, whatever it was. He has been incredible the last 3 games. He's been phenomenal, almost flawless. And so even if you wanted to say like the Knicks have the upper hand because 2 of the next 3 if it gets to 7 or at the Garden, and the Pacers are the younger team with less experience, and this is Halliburton's first postseason, they don't look daunted now. Like they've settled in, they're good, they know what they're doing. They've been able to push the tempo and take advantage of the Knicks, I think, being on fumes. And yeah, I think the Knicks are in trouble at this stage. And by the way, because as you guys know, I hate predictions, so I will just hedge away again. It won't surprise me if the Knicks pull this out because this is who they are. But I don't think that's where this is going.
Raja, we know the blueprint for the Pacers, winning Game 5, try to run them out of the building, literally run them out of the building. Is the play here for the Knicks, and, I'm going to, double back on what Howard said in the chances of the Knicks winning, do they need guerrilla warfare in this? Do they need to just be in, we're going to just try to kick your ass and be physical and make this a very low-scoring affair? Is that their only shot at this Game 5 right now?
Yeah, I think it's a lunch pail, hard hat type of game that you've got to drag the Pacers down into. And I said that, and then the Knicks beat them playing their game in, what was that, game 2, was it? Or I don't remember. Game 2.
Game 1 and 2.
But what you saw, and why it's got to be that now more than before for me, Logan, is they just looked so gassed and so tired yesterday as a team, the Knicks. Yeah. It just looked, now some of that's you're just getting, boat raced. And so, the human emotion is going to let down and you're going to look, but they looked tired. They looked like the pace of this series, the minutes that everyone's logging, is catching up in some degree. So if we're going to, play again tomorrow night, I would say controlling the pace becomes critical. The same way I told you, the Pacers, if you don't win running up and down the court and flying around, don't worry about it. Just keep doing it. Just keep doing it, because eventually they're going to run out of legs. They won't be able to keep up, and you'll make it all up on the back end. So yeah, they have to. But I don't think that the pieces, like Alec Burks. Alec Burks was my rook in Utah. That's a professional scorer.
Yeah.
Even when
good
he was
dude,
a rookie, he
Alec
was a
Burks.
Professional scorer. Oh, absolutely, good dude. But I don't know that he's the type of guy. I don't know that he's the type of guy that like you're expecting to go out there and just play bully ball with people. Do you know what I mean? Like that's not his style of play necessarily.
Also, Raja, when I saw him when I saw him come in, I think in Game 3, I thought the first person I thought of was you. Was when we always talk about on Real Ones how you don't want Alec Burks being the person that is carrying your offense on a night in, night out basis, right? He was a leading scorer last night or yesterday afternoon. Like that shows where the Knicks are.
Yeah, it's not good. Look, I'll go back to this, and I know, but I thought about it. It kind of like took over my world on Saturday. I really think they should have sat Jalen Brunson in Game 3. I know they got close.
Wow.
I know they got close, and I'm the same dude who was having no part of the Lakers not playing to win the first play-in game. So I know how this sounds contradictory to most people, but I would have sat him. And you're going to tell me it was right there.
Raja point shaving Bell.
You could have told. But what did they do ultimately? They lost. Yeah. And I'm just saying, like you're not playing in the regular NBA world when you've lost that many people. When you're down that many people, you're looking at 2 games and saying, which one do I have a better chance of winning? And it's hard to do. I get it. It's so out of the box that I don't even believe it half the time. But then I go back and I'm like, yeah, that makes sense to me, Raj. Like, what you're trying to win one of the 2. Which one do I have a better chance of winning? I'm going to throw my eggs at number 2 because you're losing one.
I was on, I can't remember who I was talking to on Friday. I was on somebody else's show, and they were saying, hey, what do you think of this idea of, and it must have just been circulating through all the shows because I wasn't obviously on with you guys that day, but they said, oh, what about the idea of the Knicks just punting the game? And I said, that's insanity. Like you in the playoffs, punting a game, because you don't know what's going to happen the next game, right? Foul trouble, another injury,
this, by the way.
Whatever. What's that?
Roger's definitely down on this.
Yeah,
no, I'm listening. I haven't said anything. I'm listening.
But I think it's fascinating because Raja, don't we always talk about in this league like how you can't Well, there's like the mystical stuff, like, you know, don't fuck with the basketball gods, don't like whatever. But there's also just the very fact of playoff games. Things sometimes turn on the slightest little thing. You can't predict the day to day, and if you're punting game 3 with the idea that we'll be healthier in game 4 and we'll be fine then, like, okay, cool, but what if Brunson doesn't feel much better on Sunday than he did Friday? And then what if he gets in the game and he's fine, but yeah, now DiVincenzo turns his ankle or something? Like, it seems to me like you're tempting fate, and by quote unquote giving away a game, punting, in a best of 7 series, like, you just can't afford to do that. If you're a great team, if you're just stacked and you want to rest one guy for the back end of the series, that's one thing, but like, that's not the case in this series. They're too tightly matched.
I know you can't do that if you're the Knicks, right? I know this, but under everything that you just said, I would check agree, right? Under a set of circumstances where the deck wasn't already stacked against us, we've already lost to the gods of fate. We're down 4 rotational pieces. We're not playing in the world where I'm worried about tempting them anymore. They've already shit on me.
Yeah, the basketball gods have already basically like kicked you in the ass.
They've shit on me. Yeah. So now I'm trying to play the game of like, okay, this is purely numbers, right? And the percent chance that we run in there undermanned after losing Anunoby, Jalen Brunson's foot being as sore as it is or was after that game. I don't have the numbers. Like, I'm sorry with the analytics, but the amount of times that we're going to win that game, and kudos to the Knicks. They should have won the fucking game. But guess what? They didn't. And so now we're still sitting there in the same world where I'm saying you were going to lose it anyway. I could make a case, and I've been working it out all weekend where, you know, in this world, it wasn't the one that I played in where I know you can't do that in. I might have been that crazy person in the office saying, just sit him. Let's take a swing at game 4. Because the reality is, if he's not good in game 4, we're 2-2 regardless. I don't think there were many worlds in which they won game 1. They did everything they could do in the situation they were in. And what happened to them in game 1 in Indiana?
Yeah.
They lost it. Yeah. You couldn't have done anything more to win that game, and you still lost it. So, I mean, for all those reasons, I'm still standing here saying I probably would have fucking sat him. And I know, I feel you, bro. I don't even believe it myself half the time, but the other half, or the other 51% of the time, I'm like, I would have sat him.
I think that as this series wears on, and I'll put a bow on this one. As the series wears on, and it by the day, the Indiana Pacers are becoming more and more and more the favorites to win this series, just because
more confident, more
wind. You know, like they are just, they have the legs, they have all of that. So like, this is a big game. This is probably, I think, Game 5 could possibly be the series, right?
I think the series is OG Anunoby. If he ain't back, I think the Pacers, whether it's in the next 2 or over the course of it, figure it out. If OG comes back, I really believe that's the series. That body, that level of player and his availability as a body in their lineup, I think it's that critical.
Well, last question I do have for Howard. Tom Thibodeau has obviously been, and I know this is a different set of circumstances with all the injuries, a lot of people have to play. But Tom Thibodeau has obviously been criticized for his, let's say, his minutes allocation practices. How much of that would be fair in this postseason run as opposed to last postseason's runs where he's running dudes? Every time you see his box score, it's 40 minutes here, 40 minutes there. How much would that be to blame in this particular instance?
It's so hard to say. I mean, it's an easy thing to grab, and it's not even, and I'm not saying it's easy to grab and to be dismissive of it, because it might be relevant, but that's the kind of thing where I'd have to go through and look at like everybody's injuries. Like, some injuries are unavoidable, right? Some injuries are just like somebody undercut you, or you landed on somebody's foot. a collision, whatever. And then there's like the soft tissue injuries that are like no contact or whatever. And you look at it and you think the medical folks will tell you that, okay, yeah, that might be a fatigue injury. So of the Knicks injuries that have affected them in this postseason, how many are potentially tied to fatigue? I don't know offhand. The Anunoby hamstring is probably the first one you'd speculate on, but like we're not qualified to know that. And I think a lot of these other ones were incidents, collisions and other stuff. So I'm not sure that's relevant necessarily in this case, but Tibbs has the history he has, and so it's always going to come up.
Yeah, let's go to the Western Conference really quickly because we have a mailbag to respond to. Series is 2-1 Dallas going into game. Hold on one second. Siri got caught. Okay. The series is 2-1 in Dallas. Going back to or not going back to Dallas, but game 4 will be in Dallas. We have seen Dallas become this team of two scorers with the emergence of Kyrie as not even as a postseason player in this stage, but he's become this number 2 option in a way where he has just been. It's kind of a Kyrie renaissance in the sense that we just haven't seen him play at this level in a second. What have you seen from his play, Raja, and how has it really helped this Mavericks team thus far in this series?
What I've seen from Kyrie is a real understanding of what a 1B needs to be, which is a very effective but still complementary scorer. And I've seen Kyrie this year understand the nuances around that better than a lot of 1B type of players do. They're frequently on 1A's toes. And there's a little bit of an overlap. It gets funky. I've seen Kyrie this year just sit and wait for quarters, halves of games, even in the playoffs. And then when he senses that Luka needs it, he erupts, right? And so he might not wind up with 50 because he wasn't cooking the entire game. But boy, that 27 with 21 in the second half looks like vintage Kyrie. So that's what I've seen from Kyrie on the offensive end. I think the understanding of when to get in and when to get out, kind of double Dutch. You know what I mean? Logan, the rope spinning, the rope spinning, the rope spinning, the rope spinning. I'm bopping. Oh, I'm in. And then how to get back out. And I think he's playing that role fantastically this year. You didn't ask me.
Could you double Dutch, Roger? Could you double Dutch? Were you a good double Dutch?
I probably could not. I never tried.
Okay.
Yeah,
I tried once and I got hit in the face by the rope and I just
that looked a little confusing.
When you first jump in, that is treacherous. That's scary.
Look, first of all, would you consider yourself like I'm not like a fantastic dancer? Like I'm not going to sit here and tell you I got the rhythm of like
I got gigs.
You know, a performer. Well, okay. Well, you might be straight, but someone like me would look at that and be like, yeah, I'm probably not going to get in there. But Kyrie's certainly doing it, and he's doing it at a high level, and I think that's what especially in playoff games. And that's what, like we just talked about Minnesota and them, that's what that's what Karl Anthony Towns needs to perfect. Like if Ant needs those breaks or for organic reasons like foul trouble or what have you, or he just goes cold. Now Cat is consistent enough to just pick that up and run with it in a way that supplements. And Kyrie's doing that at a really high level.
I think it's one of the more impressive aspects of what the Mavericks have done and what Kyrie has done. If you want to go back to like this last, however many decisions Kyrie has made in his career, he left the best player in the game. He said he demanded a trade away from LeBron James. Unprecedented. Not just with LeBron, but anybody. Like, who does that? Who's winning championships and going to a championship, but going to 3 straight finals and saying, you know what? I'd rather do something else. And I don't know what he had in mind exactly.
It's my guy, man.
Didn't work out so well, to say the least. So he goes to Boston. Obviously didn't work out well there. And he ends up joining with Durant in Brooklyn. Didn't work out well there. I think by the time he got moved to Dallas, there were a bunch of teams across the league that didn't want anything to do with Kyrie Irving. I can tell you that for a fact. A lot of people just not even wanting to go down that road. And obviously there was a lot of off-court stuff that happened in Brooklyn that maybe scared some teams too. But even just as talented as he is, even just on the basketball merits, people had their doubts about whether he could fit in, find a role that would make him happy, and just be, maximize all of his incredible skills without necessarily having to be the guy, which is what it seemed like the point of the exercise was when he first wanted to leave LeBron. I need to go be the guy somewhere. And he has been Raja, you said it perfectly, but he's like the consummate number 2 right now. And not in a bad way. Like we got to stop doing this thing where first of all, as Zach Lowe and I talked about recently, we need a better version of the Batman and Robin thing. Like it's played out, but there's no shame in being Robin. And there's no shame in being Scottie Pippen. It's fine. You could win a lot of games and championships and earn yourself a lot of money and awards and accolades and legacy building and all that stuff. And there is no shame in it, especially when you're playing with a guy of the caliber of LeBron James or Luka Doncic, like 2 of the greatest we've ever seen play the game. And credit to Kyrie. There's a lot of other things I will not say credit to Kyrie about, but on this, credit to Kyrie for figuring out how to find a happy medium or maximize his incredible gifts as a scorer and passer, and have the game like he did the other day where he had 8-9 assists, didn't score that much, but it was really key for him to just be that threat out there and playmaker. So I think it's been really impressive.
How much does ego, Raja, keep players from being in the role they're supposed to be in?
Yeah, I mean, ego is probably the number one reason why guys, at whatever point they are in their career, either can't let go of it, so they can't figure out how to be a piece of it, or in some instances might not have enough of it, and so they can't ever achieve the superstar level, right? Because don't get it twisted, to be a star, there's a lot of ego that goes. There's got to be some real self-belief. But I think specific to Kyrie, he never struck me as a guy who it was an ego issue with. I mean, Kyrie is. You ask an NBA player about skill level and ability with the ball, and he's going to be in most people's top 10 list, period, point blank.
Top 5.
Right. Oh, I said 10 just because where I'm saying everybody in the league, right? But most people's top 5.
Of the stars, especially of the stars.
But he doesn't carry himself. I spent time with Kyrie. He doesn't carry himself like that. There's not an obnoxiousness about that. He's just pretty comfortable that he's really good like that. I think, certain, and this is just my opinion, but certain markets provide distractions for him that will indulge other parts of his personality. And they get his focus off of purely the court. And I think Dallas is a good place for him. Because as a town, it's a beautiful place to live in, but it's not New York. It's not like Boston. It's not that kind of market. And, I think the focus and the acceptance of kind of who he is, because he is different. He's not the run of the mill cut from the same cloth, person for that matter, not even basketball player. There's more room for that to breathe maybe, and just kind of, got more land. You ain't on top of everybody. And real talk, I know it sounds corny and kind of off the beaten path, but you can be on your ranch, if you will, and nobody's fucking with you in Dallas. I don't know if he lives on a ranch, but I think it's an interesting place for him. But he was in
Cleveland when this saga started.
He didn't have problems in Cleveland, though. He didn't have problems in Cleveland with LeBron.
But he left Cleveland.
He wanted to leave.
He forced his way out of Cleveland.
No, that's fair. But in the workplace, he was not a problem, and he wasn't having problems with media or anything like that.
Yeah.
But no, you're right. He did. I mean, I wasn't there when he did that, but he certainly did.
He sent himself down this path, this jagged path of the last, 8 years or whatever, starts with him deciding, I don't want to be LeBron's teammate anymore and go to the finals every year. Which, a decision that I still don't understand.
Listen, I don't get that. I don't get that one either. I mean, because to your point, even if you want to call him Batman or 1B, whatever you want to call him, not only are you winning championships and everything's, you're still better than 90% of the rest of the players in the league. You were 1B or number 2 on the championship team. Pretty good. So yes, I didn't understand that one either, Howard, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's been interesting to see him on the Mavs, and I really like this team. I think that if they can get through this series, they'll be an interesting out in the Western Conference Finals. We'll see. Okay. Time for motherfucking mailbag. Kerm, what is good? How you doing, pal? It's Monday. I know.
What's up? It's a Monday morning. Let's get in, get out.
He got the quiet storm voice on right now.
Some bullshit. Yeah, don't come in here on some bullshit. Don't come in here with that weak shit, Kerm. Don't do that.
Yeah, what you want from me,
We're out
Raja?
here rolling, bro. Like, get some bass in your voice, bro. Yeah, step up. Let's go.
All right,
You're
I'm
on the
up. I'm up. Let's get it. Let's go. Damn.
Yeah.
All right.
Raja want people to come fight him at Monday in the morning to gain his respect. Just like...
All right.
You want it or not? Do you want it or not?
I need energy, man. Let's go.
All right. First question's from Patrick. He says, hi, Logan, Howard, and Raja. Like, you can say hi to me too, but that's fine. My name is Patrick. I live in Nashville. I hate it, but still wish the Memphis Grizzlies would move back to Vancouver. Is there any chance of that happening in the near future? Thank you for your time.
I can tell you that every media person who covered the NBA during the Vancouver era would vote overwhelmingly. No disrespect.
I want to say real quick before you get to your point, I am so jealous of you to that point, Howard. They got to get on a West Coast swing, Vancouver, Seattle, Portland, the Bay Area, and LA. It's disrespectful, man. Fuck. I'm so
that was nice.
Oh, it grinds my gears.
Although those were always like one and back, like you rarely hit both. So occasionally, but you rarely hit both cities because it was so close. The NBA would do like the one game and return. But Vancouver's a gorgeous city. It was not a great NBA market at the beginning. I think it would be a much better market now. I did attend. There was a preseason game. Logan, were you there when the Warriors played that game there in the preseason?
No, we played the Raptors in 2016. No, I was not at that game.
Yeah. So I went up. I can't remember why I went out for that one, but I went out for that when I was working on something. And crowd was great. I would love to see Vancouver back, but clearly, like if the NBA is adding teams or moving teams, like Seattle and Vegas, we know are probably top of the list. And would they go back to Vancouver at some point? I have no intel on this. I think they're in a much better position now than they were when they obviously lost the Grizzlies. But man, I don't think we're seeing that anytime soon. Maybe the NBA can send some preseason games back there, though.
Yeah, that'd be great. Shout out to Cassville, though. I know you hate it, but the hot chicken is great.
Next question.
Nashville?
Oh,
I actually lived in Nashville for a quick second, for like 3 weeks.
Never been.
Nashville.
All my family lives in Nashville.
Yeah, Nashville's nice. Shout out Patrick.
Shout out
Hattie
Patrick,
B's.
man. Hattie B's for real. Some good hot chicken. Next question from Phil. He says, "What's good, fellas?" It had exclamation point, question mark. So, I had to give the energy. Longtime fan and listener. Longtime Raja Bell fan. First time Real Ones mailbagger. Writing to you from the hometown of burgeoning NBA superstar Shai Gilgeous-Alexander from Hamilton, Ontario, not Toronto.
Yeah.
I'll try and keep it short as he writes a whole essay. Parody.
We're past that, my boy.
He says, parody has been cool and all, but do we miss the super teams and dynasties that have defined so many memorable past eras of the league? I won't lie. I love watching guys in their prime want to win so bad they'd forgo being the man and go team up with other stars. I miss watching aging superstars give it the old college try and form their own retirement age hoop Avengers. And lastly, I just feel like dynasties in particular gave the league as a whole more of an identity and made it more inviting for newer fans and casuals, since these players and teams had become household names even outside of basketball fandom. What are your thoughts?
My first thought, Phil, is much respect to you for the fandom and all of that, but my boy, you can't start it with like, let me be quick and get a quick question in, and then just have that like have the screenplay that Kerm just read off, bro. Fuck
Shout
me,
out to
man.
Hamilton.
Howard, we've talked about this before. I do miss dynasties, Bill. Shout out to Hamilton, straight up. I do miss dynasties. I've heard you talk about it. You've got more insight into it, into what the league's doing and how it's better without it. But my fandom, my youthful NBA first time watcher, hook me and sink your hooks into me, and I'm a lifelong fan, misses the dynasties.
And that's the thing, right? Like most people, depending on your age, like everybody grew up on a dynasty, right? Like guys of my age are still referring back to whether it's Celtics and Lakers and that rivalry in the 80s or the 90s Bulls. If you come up at a certain era, it's always like the Shaq and Kobe Lakers or maybe the Spurs. Dynasties have defined this league almost for its entire history. The 70s are the only decade without a dynasty. The 40s had the George Mikan Lakers even at the beginnings of the NBA. And then, of course, the Bill Russell Celtics. The 70s are like this really, really strange period. 80s, Celtics and Lakers, 90s Bulls. So all the way through, and then through the Warriors dynasty. And if you want to say the Warriors dynasty is still kind of lingering because they won one 2 years ago and the principles of that dynasty are still there, you could say that. But we've had like whatever it's been, 5 straight years with a different champion crowned. And that hadn't happened since the 70s, the one decade when we had no dynasties. It's a love-hate thing, right? Like, for the league, it's really great to have dynasties because, and I think the emailer said it right, like casual fans who are the ones who constitute the big part of that ratings bulge in the spring, they're coming because they know who Steph and LeBron are. And they may not have been as familiar on the upswing with, say, Jokic. They probably were familiar with Giannis by that point, and they should have been familiar with Jokic too, for that matter. They should definitely be familiar with Luka Doncic. But like, we're in our own little weird, NBA bubble here, where like I think it's hard for us to get a sense of like what casual sports fans, who they do or don't know. Jokic only recently started doing all these commercials for like a couple different brands, and so like you at least see him. But that recognizability matters. Having somebody to either love or hate. Because dynasties are polarizing. Like you either get sick of them and you want somebody to take them down, or you love what they're doing and you want it to keep going. Like, and if you have a different champion every year, parity's good for all the individual markets, but is it good for the NBA as a whole and ratings in June? I don't know.
The NBA trying so hard to be the NFL when they should just lean into what they already are. And, that's kind of that's where I see it. I'm with both of you guys. I think dynasties are great for the league. Just the familiarity of people, like you guys just said, like people who tune in June, they want to see Steph, they want to see LeBron, they want to see these guys, or whoever the star is that is consistently getting there, they want to see that. And I think that I think the NBA should lean into that more. And I think that, we're in a better place. I echo all of your sentiments. What's the next question?
All right. Last question is from Colton. He asks, how do y'all see the difference between guys who score a lot but may not have a full package? In parentheses, they list Shaq as an example. He dunked that shit. And guys who are pure scorers, like say, he has in parentheses here, Kevin Durant, he shoots from everywhere. Do you think there's a difference between those type of scorers, and who would you say are the five of the best pure scorers in the game today?
It's a lot of questions.
Yeah, they're doing a lot. They're doing a lot today.
Oh man, it could be as big a question as you want it to be. I am not a quote unquote bag guy. I think it's part of the culture that I actually don't love. That because someone doesn't have an arsenal of dribble moves and creative step backs, that their scoring is somehow like less appreciated is a funny thing for me. Like, I actually think it's the opposite. I think you're a better fucking scorer if you don't need all of that. Like, if you literally just can't stop Giannis from scoring. Like, why do you need it? So I think that's the question is very large. For me, I don't draw a line between a guy being able to kind of be an offensive, chameleon like KD at times, and then a guy who's got to do it a certain way to get the buckets, but they wind up with essentially the same amount of buckets. Doesn't mean that there's no real difference for me.
The goal isn't to have a bag. The goal is to win, right?
Straight up.
Like that's the distinction. And I hate to drag Kyrie back into this. And again,
oh my God.
No, I'm going to. Everything I just said about him 5 minutes ago stands. What he's doing right now is great. But Raja, you would have to agree with me on this. Kyrie was the consummate bag guy, right?
Yeah,
Look
for sure.
at all the stuff he's got in his game, right? And on talent alone, you'd say this guy should have been one of the greats of all time. He doesn't even have the All-NBA. I don't think he has a single All-NBA nod. And it's not just because of off-court stuff. It's because sometimes the bag got in the way of him actually just being a good teammate or a good co-star with LeBron or a good co-star with Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, whatever it may be. Other things, of course, got in the way too. But the bag is the bag. Like, it's great. He's super fun to watch. He's amazing. He does things we've never seen any other NBA player do. But there's a difference between having great talent and being a great player. Mm-hmm. And the great player brings other things to bear, like all the intangibles, your leadership, how you are as a teammate, how coachable you are, your attitude from day to day, all these other things, right? And some guys have the bag, but don't have all those other things. And so what's the bag worth if you can't be a good teammate and you're not coachable and you're a pain in the ass? And I'm not saying those are the things about Kyrie, although those things may have applied to him at various stages.
Yeah. I
on the
echo
Shaq
everything.
thing. Sorry, go ahead.
Go on the Shaq thing because you're about to get in the bag. No, go ahead.
No. Well, like Shaq. First of all, Raja, I'm sure you'll back me up. Like, first of all, Shaq gets shorted by fans who think that all he did was just knock dudes out of the way and dunk.
That's what they did. But first of all, he didn't just do that. But Howard, that's what they asked him to do. He could have done anything.
Yes, but he also had great footwork and was actually really light on his feet for a guy of his size. And there was some skill there. There was a jump hook, and he could do other stuff. He actually had, for a guy his size, he had a pretty good handle. But also in Shaq's time, not like today with Jokic and Embiid and others who are allowed to do other stuff. Like, Shaq came up at a time where it was like, you're the biggest guy, go get down there on the block and stay there. So he didn't have the opportunity to expand his game and have the bag, even though Shaq would tell you he had the bag, and he just wasn't allowed to use it. But there was more to his game that people give him credit for. It wasn't just dunking. But also, if you had the opportunity to have Shaq or the 6'2" guy with the bag, you'd take Shaq every time because he's a really high percentage opportunity. And that's the goal. The goal is to get the ball in the basket. It doesn't matter how fancy you got it there.
I'm here for all of the millennial lingo from Howard. I don't think I've ever heard him say bag this much in consecutive sentences. What were you going to say, Raja?
This may not happen again.
I want to answer his question about the top five. What was the last part of his question?
He asked, who are the top 5 best pure scorers in the game today?
Best pure scorers. That's a lot to break down right now, but allow me to attempt, see if you guys agree or disagree with me. Luka, SGA, KD. And then these last two are going to be interesting because they're not going to fit the mold of the other ones that I just told you. Joel Embiid. He's a bucket, man. Inside, outside, like he's a bucket. and Giannis for different reasons.
No Ant Edwards.
Yeah, I was gonna say no.
Mm-mm.
Why? What's the case for not?
Because
Edwards?
Because I could only get 5, and I think that I would trust. I think Luka, SGA, and KD as far as dudes off the bounce, like I think they're the. I mean, we can debate it, but there's some bad boys, and then. Yeah, Giannis and Joe. I don't know who. I mean, I don't know. I think if you said 5, if you said top 10, Ant makes my list. Top 5, that's my list.
You could make the argument for me to kick SGA out and put Ant in his place.
Okay,
right now, but I don't have any other. I don't have any other critiques of your list other than I thought Anthony Edwards was going to be in there.
I think Kyrie has to be in the conversation, doesn't he?
Kyrie does.
Kyrie,
yeah, I mean, SGA did average 32. I mean, I mean, he averaged 30 a game this year.
I mean, like, look, if Kyrie were to put himself back in a position or was put in a position where it was like send him to, I don't know, who's our most godforsaken team, the Wizards.
Yes.
Send him to the Wizards tomorrow and give him free reign. Kyrie's, firmly back in the conversation because he's going to score 30 a night. Yeah. Well, Charlotte at least had LaMelo Ball when he's occasionally healthy and playing. So.
Yeah, anyway, that was my attempt at it. I don't really love lists. You guys know me. I don't love ranking stuff, but we gave it a shot
You like rankings as much as I love predictions.
Right. Correct.
Jeez. Oh man. You see, man, Howard has officially scared me off from doing predictions. I even during the podcast where I'm like about to hey, so what do you guys think? I just get scared and I just give up. I'm like, no, let's go to the next topic. Anyways, that has been another edition of Motherfucking Mondays with Howard motherfucking Beck. We'll see you guys on Friday. You can catch all these great anecdotes and all these great answers if you just go to and send an email to realonesmailbag@gmail.com. 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 Kerm is nodding his head, and I feel good about that. Let's wrap this thing up. It's getting a little loopy. Talk to you guys on Friday. All the shits. Bye.